This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
All right, we're down to one handful of games. We're down to the last 5 weeks. Last set of byes is this coming week, and it is the home stretch of the season. The Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, I don't know why it feels like that just tightened up the already tight AFC to me, guys, because Pittsburgh's win gives them life. This was the conversation this week. Maybe this is it for Roethlisberger. You're starting to tell people close to him that this is going to be the last gasp. But that was like a very Pittsburgh last gasp to keep them around for the month of December in the win over Baltimore.
You could almost predict this. And, in fact, I did predict it before it started. Hey, Pittsburgh's done. Mike Tomlin's lost control of the team. Ben can't play anymore.
Practice,
all that.
right?
Yeah, maybe we can get some music at practice. And just when you count the Steelers out, that's when they'll play their best. And Baltimore, really, they've been winning, but they hadn't been playing great football. So you could see this coming, Drew.
Yeah, and I think this puts Baltimore at a real risk of not winning their division. And I say that even despite Cincinnati, losing today, I think that knowing that they've got Cincinnati still left here in a few weeks, but you just look at the rest of Baltimore's schedule and the fact that they're banged up even more on defense, and offensively they really have not been playing well. They're not a complete offense by any means. I think this may be a tough stretch for them.
Let me bring Mike Florio in on that, because Marlon Humphrey was not on the field at the end of the game, Mike, and John Harbaugh indicated after the game that was part of his decision to go for 2 in the win at the end.
Oh, and there's a report from NFL media that it's believed to be a shoulder injury for Marlon Humphrey. I'm told that they don't know what it is yet, that the MRI will show exactly what it is. It could be several different things. They're just waiting to see, but it doesn't look good for the Ravens and for defensive back Marlon Humphrey. And, guys, one thing that's amazing to me about the Steelers this year, and I think we've seen this with several teams, and we're getting used to and we're learning on the fly what it means to have a 17-game season. It just seems like the whole thing is stretched, and we see teams on a roller coaster this year like never before, where they have enough time to have the highs and the lows and the highs and the lows. And as a result, we never really can be confident that we know anything about any of these teams. And the Ravens and the Steelers are 2 of the teams that fall right into that category.
Last year, Pittsburgh was 11-0.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, they're not playing Steeler football. It's passing game and short passes, and they weren't running it well. And this is going to catch up to them in December. Baltimore had the best record in the AFC, but they weren't running the ball. When they were really, really on fire, it was a dominant running game. And it hadn't been that. It had been great play here, field goal by Justin Tucker to win a game. They weren't playing Ravens football, and I think they've got to get back to that.
Yeah, and I think their defense was bailing them out too. I mean, you look at the number of turnovers they'd had here, especially over the last few weeks, and that's not Ravens football either. Yeah. So it's I think you just see a lot of glaring things for them that they need to get cleaned up if they want to be an ascending team going into the playoffs.
And I just want you to think about their last 4 games on the offensive side. Remember the game in Miami, the Thursday night game, where people said, oh, now maybe a lot of people are going to blitz Lamar, and they lose that game. Then Chicago, that was a late win. They didn't break 20 points in that game. The Cleveland game last Sunday night, only 16 points. 19 points here against Pittsburgh. So the offense hasn't cracked 20 in 5 games here. As the weather gets colder and they play these division games, it's going to be tough for them, put onus on their defense. So let me flip it to another team in the division, Cincinnati, Drew. Here are the Bengals at home. They had that dominant win over Pittsburgh. You felt like, okay, now they're going. And the Chargers, who were struggling, they come to Cincinnati, and they really set an early tone, winning the game, but going up 24-0 is a big part of that.
Yeah, they did. And I think, though, that the final score is maybe a little misleading. There was a moment where Cincinnati came back and could have taken the lead after being down 24-0.
Yes, but there was a moment they were down 24-0.
So. That's right. But to fight all their way back, and especially with Joe Burrow having the hurt pinky, and I mean, I still look at Cincinnati and say they have all the makings of a complete team because they can run the football. They do have playmakers in the passing game, and their defense, I think, plays well enough. So
I know we want to get to Mike Florio, but I feel like we're saying that about every AFC team.
Yeah.
That in spurts and at times we see great, and then we see other times you scratch your head.
Interesting. Mike, can you just give us a little bit of insight on Keenan Allen? I want to come back to the Burrow injury in a second, but to Keenan Allen, who you spoke to after the game, who had a big day, including a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, he only had 2 touchdown receptions all year long, and he doubled that total today, but then he threw the version of the Philly Special that the Chargers use, and they actually call it the Philly Special. They should probably come up with their own name for it. But he was funny. He was animated. I said, why were you the one to throw it? He said, hey, I'm the number 3 quarterback on game days. So if the backup, if Chase Daniel goes down, I'm the guy who takes over. So he had a nice little semi-sidearm throw, and I asked him what was the mood on the sideline when it went from 24-0 to 24-22. Who stepped up? Who provided that voice of calm? And he said it's kind of a collective effort, and they all kind of understood this is what they needed to do. They need to hold firm, and it could have gone either way. It felt like the Bengals were going to come back and take that game, and it wasn't until that Joe Mixon fumble that was returned for a touchdown that it swung back the other way. But, the Bengals hung tough, and they can learn some lessons from this. But it seems like every time we're ready to take the Bengals seriously, they do something to make us not take them seriously.
It's everyone. We're ready to crown them, in the words of Denny Green, and we can't crown them. So the reason we got the ball here is because we had the finger injury, the pinky injury to Joe Burrow. Taysom Hill hurt his finger. Russell Wilson has missed games with his finger. So if you can, please, I asked you this question. The pinky...
Yeah.
Which finger is the least important in the grip for a quarterback?
So I'd say the least important is the ring finger, and here's why. Your pinky and thumb are really what provide the stability to grip the ball. The middle finger is your power finger. Your index finger is the last one that leaves it, so that's really what helps create the pronation and the spin. So the ring finger is just kind of there. It's along for the ride. Right, yeah. It's just along for the ride. So for the guys who, like Russell Wilson, his middle finger, I think Taysom the same way. I hurt my thumb at one point. Joe Burrow today, his pinky. That really hurts your ability to grip and stabilize the ball.
And those things linger. I mean, we don't know the severity of the injury.
Yeah.
But I always feel like any injury with a quarterback and we're seeing more of them too in the last few weeks.
You saw Joe Burrow on the sideline just trying to get a warm-up throw and just grimacing because that pain was there in that finger trying to keep the ball sturdy.
Yeah, because that's a pinky and thumb are the two that are constantly applying pressure so the ball doesn't slip out of your hands.
And pain, cold weather, you're playing a bunch of games in that division, and they go to Denver too next week, so they'll be playing in cold weather. They go in 2 weeks to play home for San Francisco. Let me flip over to the NFC. San Francisco, or rather Arizona, beat Chicago. I came into our meeting today as we start to watch all the games in our screening room. I said, I don't feel like Arizona's getting enough credit for what they're doing. I don't know if it's because they play in the 4:05 time slot on the East Coast. They haven't been in a lot of the big national games. But Kyler Murray's back. They got through their tough spell. And now, Tony, they have the best record in the NFL as we head into the last 5 weeks.
And they've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of playmakers on both sides of the ball. I think we kind of forget that. Look at the people they've added this year. A.J. Green and Zach Ertz and James Conner. To a really good lineup. And I feel like Kyler Murray is playing with patience and poise. He's not feeling like I've got to make every play a touchdown. And they're playing good football.
Yeah, and they're playing better on the road than anywhere. They're 7-0 undefeated on the road. And some of the places they've gone, they went to Tennessee and just beat them up week one. They've gone to Cleveland and beat them up. They went to Chicago today in really crummy weather conditions and looked very, very good. So you look at what they've been able to do offensively, but defensively they're creating a ton of turnovers, a ton of opportunity, and it makes it feel like they can go anywhere. They have the best record. They may have home field advantage, but they can go anywhere and win.
Maybe they can get to L.A. in the Super Bowl. But, Mike, they play L.A. next Monday night in what's going to be a huge game, really to determine how deep we go into the end of the season with that division in question.
And what's amazing is they have 7 road wins by double digits. And if they get one more this year, that'll be the most ever by any team. It'll be 8 double-digit road wins. They've got 2 more games on the road, the Lions and the Cowboys coming up. And they just kind of quietly done it, and they took care of business when Kyler Murray was out. I got a question for you guys. If they finish with the number 1 seed in the NFC, even though Kyler Murray missed 3 games, is he the MVP? I think you can make a strong case for it, even with 3 games gone because of that sprained ankle.
They've got a good team, and I said on our show that I feel like he's like Steph Curry.
I love that.
Attracts so much attention, and you have to focus on what he does that it gives everybody else room to operate. So I think he's very, very valuable. But then you look at the other side of it, hey, we won 2 out of 3 with Colt McCoy. So it's an interesting call, Mike.
Yeah, I've seen so much growth with him in the way that he's executing this offense, and certainly he has a ton of weapons around him. But his ability to play the game and almost play to where the defense can't touch him. I mean, literally, I think I've ever seen a guy with that ability that when he is outside the pocket, he's going to make a play with his legs, he's made a play with his arm, but you're not going to have a chance to even get a hand on him. He's just such an unbelievable talent.
According to PointsBet, Tom Brady is the MVP favorite for what it's worth, and he threw 51 passes in Tampa's win. Look over to the right here, guys, okay? So you've got the 4, Arizona, Green Bay, Tampa, and Dallas. Then you got the Rams. I think we all feel like that has been the line of demarcation. Of the teams 6 through, I guess it's 12 right now, which 2 other teams do you feel best about right now that can make the playoffs?
You know, Washington is playing well right now. I still like the 49ers. I like their pedigree. I like their physicality. And, you know, they've got to play consistent ball, but I think that's the team that could get hot and do some things.
True.
You know, there's something about Washington that the way that they win, the way that they close out games, you just feel like they're battle tested.
It's 4 in a row now, right?
And they believe. You know, Philly is an interesting team to me. You know, they play Washington twice here coming up. So, you know, you look at the result of that matchup, and that might be who slides into that next spot.
Mike?
This is something that dawned on us last week during PFT Live as we were breaking all this down. Washington actually has 2 different paths. They've got the wild card and the potential to win the division. 2 games behind the Cowboys. They play the Cowboys twice. So all the other teams are just scratching and clawing to get a wild card berth. Washington has 2 different ways to do it. That's what intrigues me about their chances. And, yeah, 4 wins in a row helps too.
And when you look at that list, Minnesota lost to Detroit. They turned around and played Pittsburgh on Thursday at home, really almost the season on the line game. Carolina fired their offensive coordinator today. Atlanta is scuffling at 5-7. The Saints have not gotten any quarterback play here in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Nobody feels like they can jump up, and it really does feel like those 3 teams in a separation. All right, speed round. You want to go speed round, everybody?
All right, let's do it.
There's the magic music. We talked about Washington, 4 straight wins. Yes or no, playoff team?
I don't think so. I think they've got 2 games with Dallas. They've got games with everybody in their division. I think they're going to fall just short.
Yeah, I was going to say they fall short.
Man, you guys had me all convinced before that they were going. Mike, playoff team or no, Washington?
I'm on board. I'm on board. And, of course, that's when they'll fall apart. They did lose Logan Thomas for the season today. They believe with the torn ACL that could hurt them offensively, but I still believe.
When you said PFT, I thought you meant playoff football team. Washington football team, playoff football team. All right, the Eagles, are they a playoff team? Remember, 2 of those teams have to get in.
Somebody's got to get there. I'm not sold on Philadelphia either.
I'm going to say Philly is going to take Washington's spot.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make it, although I love seeing what Gardner Minshew did today. And how did they only get a 6th-round pick for him in Jacksonville? I still don't understand that.
You know what we found, and really credit to the GMs who've done it, like in Arizona, like Philadelphia, that backup quarterback who can save 1 or, in the case of Arizona, save 3 weeks, really, and keep you in place, very important. Miami Dolphins, 5 straight wins. Not the most beautiful wins, but the defense is locking people down. Is that a playoff team?
2 weeks ago, I would have said no, but now I'm believing. They believe. I think they're doing the right things with Tua to make him effective, and they've got a schedule that's favorable.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think their schedule is very favorable down the stretch here. I do believe they're a playoff team.
You guys serious? Really?
Yeah.
You think with all those teams? Did we put up the AFC playoff picture on the screen yet, guys? By the way, did we do that earlier in the segment? Or did these guys see Miami's barely on there? Florio,
they're barely on there, but now
bye. Right.
Jets at New Orleans, at Tennessee, and then playing New England last game of the year.
They're 8-9. They're 8-9. Mike, playoff team or no?
Get in.
I think they're going to get to 7-7, and then what they do the last 3 games remains to be seen. Remember, we thought they were a playoff team last year, and they fell apart in the last couple of weeks, so that'll probably happen again this year.
All right, that's it. I think it's the fastest speed round ever, isn't it?
Very fast.
Very, very fast. Thank you very much. We'll come back next week. See, I leave for a week, and they do the speed round quick. They don't give me a lot of topics. They change the whole deal on us. That's it. We're done. Shop safely this week. Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.